The heck?
Welcome back to today's episode of Prepared Mode. I'm enjoying a string cheese. Do you ever eat string cheese?
Not very often, but I do like it.
It's been a while since I've had a good string cheese, so I felt, today's the day. I brought 2 string cheeses. I don't think I can bring myself to eat 2 string cheeses on camera. So I think I'm going to go put this back in the fridge. I'll be right
Yeah,
back.
that's probably a good call. Okay. Okay. I think I'm all set up here now.
Let me tell you, the boom arm is pretty nice. Let's look at it.
Yeah.
Hang on a second. Look at this.
Oh, I do like that.
And then I can just be like, see you, man. And it's gone. It's out of the way. You can't even hear me anymore. Oh, what's that? I want to talk to you. Oh, hey. What's up? What's good? How's it going?
I like that. I'm
This is-
looking forward to mine coming eventually.
We honestly just should have done this from the start.
Yeah.
Oh well. But yeah, so in case you guys haven't noticed, we have new microphones. Yeah, we should get a soundboard.
Yeah, we should.
That is what I think we need. That. Okay, that's my next list item. A soundboard.
We need did you ever watch iCarly?
Yes, I think I know which sound should we use from that?
No, I don't know, but we just need the remote that I think Sam always used that had like the 5 buttons and they did different sound effects. That's what we need.
That's exactly what we need. It's good to be hydrated. But yeah, so we have new mics. I think I had a minor stroke in the middle of that sentence.
Like it.
Yeah, we thought we were clever. We did. We thought that we could just not buy Shure SM7Bs, and then we bought Shure SM7Bs. So we could have saved ourselves the trouble by just doing this to begin with. But, there we go. Now we have them. We figured it out eventually.
I wanted to point out, I brought over, this was the old mic, and they look pretty similar, but the new one is definitely taller.
It's a little taller. It's a little thinner. This is what Joe Rogan uses, I'm pretty sure. So I think that basically puts us on that caliber.
I always aspire to be more like him.
Yeah, although to be fair, if you want to be on the caliber of Joe Rogan, all you have to do is not spread rampant disinformation, and that kind of puts us at an advantage. So I think we got him there.
Yeah.
Oh man, someone said soundboard of Craig Federighi quotes. I like that idea. I mean, maybe not Craig Federighi specifically, but we absolutely need. Wow, what an amazing day.
Yeah, we definitely need that for the end. That could be a good ending.
Oh man, I'm missing a Valorant match with my friend. Dang it. I hate Valorant. Anyway.
By the
way, Seth is here too. How about that? I'm being stream crashed.
Oh man. I just noticed on this Zoom thing, it says sound pad on it. There's like a little thing that says sound pad. I'm not sure what that means.
Oh, let me look that up. It's a Zoom. Which model did I get you?
It's the PodTrack P4.
Oh, sound pad. That's what it was, right?
Yeah.
Okay, let's look at this. Oh wow, I'm watching an ad. This is really cool. Oh, a vibration dampener? No way. Anyway. The 4 sound pads. Dude, it's a soundboard.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, you can load up pre-recorded sounds on A, B, C, and D, and it's a soundboard.
I'm gonna do that.
Oh, this is dangerous. How do we do it? Let's find out. You can put them on an SD card. Oh, yeah. You can just put whatever sound you want on the SD card and then just load them up in the menu.
I will do that for next
sound
week.
Assignment screen, and then you can set them up. Oh, this is a lot of power.
I will definitely check that out.
And then we just have to remember which sounds are where.
That is true, or else we'll play the wrong one.
Oh man, I have so many ideas for sounds. I mean, we have to have wow, what an amazing day, and good morning.
Of course.
Good morning. That's a classic.
I mean, that's good. We don't even need the Tim Cook sound. We just need you doing it. It's the same thing.
That's true. I'm just my built-in soundboard. I can just sit here and just go, good morning. And there you go.
That's all we need.
Wow. So I just did a little test audio there. I was recording for a little split second. These do sound a lot better.
That's good. I hope so.
Yeah. Yeah. I've also turned down my heat because the heat is always kicking on. Now, I don't know if do you have a thermostat? Do you have a smart thermostat, or do you just have like a normal person thermostat at your place?
Just a normal one.
Because mine, it's a Nest thermostat, but I can't connect it to the app because I rent a condo and it's registered to them, so I can just do the controls. I can't use the app. So basically, I can't turn off the heat. I can just turn it down and then hope that it takes longer for the temperature to fall than our podcast lasts.
That's real. Have they ever changed the temperature on you, or
I swear they have. I cannot get that thing to stay at whatever temperature I want it to. I think it changes itself. Like if you're not home, it turns down. It like doesn't kick on. Or conversely, if you sit in the same place and don't move around very much for a very long amount of time, like for example, if you're in a loft area doing editing work, then it'll sometimes turn off and get very, very cold or very, very hot. Yeah, it's kind of a pain. Speaking of a pain, wait, nope, I'm not actually. I thought it was time to go live, but I lied.
Not yet.
But it's so it's 67 degrees in here.
It's a bit.
I didn't have
chilly.
time to get it warmed up.
I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah.
With this last minute here, I guess I'm assuming no one has said anything. The audio sounds good and the levels are roughly equal.
That's a good point.
Let us know if on that.
Let's do a sound check, Noah. I'll talk for one sentence, and then after I'm done with this sentence, you talk.
Yeah, so then I'm gonna talk for a sentence as well, and then when I'm done, then we've both talked for one sentence.
Were we the same level? Let us know if we were not the same level. This is, I mean, I can't listen to both of our tracks. Oh, look at that. The audio is good. We've done it.
Okay, nice.
We've got a couple of. Okay, there's one person that said really bad, super bad. I'm gonna. Wow, adequate. My goodness, people have such high standards.
Yeah.
My goodness. Anyway, yeah, there was another question here. Any more polls? I think we're gonna work that in today. So do you want to pull that up just so that we have that in the background?
Yeah, I'm gonna get that. I'll get that ready for us.
I'm doing that too. All right. I think we're good to get started here.
All right. I'm recording.
Welcome to Dark Mode, the podcast that brings you sage advice from two technology experts. And that's not just what we call ourselves, it's what our moms tell people when the M1 Max is Super Max Plus Ultra X. I'm your host, Luke Miani.
And I'm your host, Noah Rubin. On this show, we take questions from listeners, attempt to answer them to varying degrees of success, and maybe even have a laugh or two along the way.
And you're going to be able to hear those laughs with ultra clarity because Dark Mode has been upgraded. This is where it would be nice to have a soundboard that would have like applause. That's our next step. I think applause and the laugh track will provide me ultimate, endless amusement. But anyway,
I think so. It'll make me feel better about myself as well.
Yeah, and that's really what I'm going for. I want you to feel good about yourself, Noah.
Thank you.
We'll feel appreciated.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we got new mics. We got SM7Bs. We resisted it for like a year. Wait, have we been doing this for a year? No, not yet.
Almost. We're getting there.
When was our first episode?
I want to say it was in February. Sometime in February.
Okay, wait. I can find this. Our first episode, episode 1 Power Tower, was Valentine's Day 2021.
Oh, I kind of remember that it was Valentine's Day.
Yeah, and we were like, oh, what are we spending time with our wives and girlfriends? Nope, we're doing a podcast about technology. That really sums it all up. Well, there you go.
Yep.
Yeah, that's kind of the level that we're operating on. But this year, I happen to know that Valentine's Day is on a Monday. So we will not be interrupting any Valentine's Day smooches to bring you the latest technology news and advice.
That's good. I'm going to be very busy on Valentine's Day, so
yeah, I know you're fully booked.
Oh yeah,
dawn to dusk.
I'm not looking forward to it. Honestly, it's going to be a real
yeah.
Real
I mean, for those of you who might not know, Noah is actually involved in a romance movie style juggling between 3 different girlfriends that he accidentally has ended up dating at the same time. And many of his days are hilarious shenanigans revolving around his ineptitude at keeping 3 separate relationships under 3 fake pseudonyms straight. And he gets into lots of mishaps, shenanigans, and tomfoolery along the way.
It's a whole thing. I'm still in the first act, so they haven't. Yeah. I don't think they've begun to suspect anything yet, but we're getting there.
Yeah, I mean, if Noah sends a little stressed the day before Valentine's Day, it's right before the climax and right before the falling action, so he's going to have a lot on his plate. So just keep that in mind.
Exactly.
So I wanted to start off today by, I don't know how we got on that tangent, by the way. The point of all of that was that we have new mics and that we've almost been doing this for a year.
Yes.
So let us know. DM me on Twitter if you think this episode sounds nice. Or you can just @ me on Twitter. Or you can just not do anything. You can just privately think that it sounds nice. That's also acceptable.
As long as you at least think it. Send us good vibes.
Exactly. We actually we're hosted by Vibes. That's our hosting platform.
It's efficient.
It's very efficient. Now, to start out today, well, we have some news that came out today, Noah. I don't know if you saw this over on the old Twitter, but apparently there is yet another variant of the M1 Max, or I don't know, some other name, that could come out. We're talking 2 months from now.
Interesting.
Did you see that?
I saw there was some discussion going on, but I didn't really read much. So this is new to me.
Yeah, so I guess I'll summarize it. So I put a video up on the channel earlier today. Some of you might be coming here from that video, or maybe you'll go to that video from here. Either way is fine with me. But basically, here's what happened. So Twitter, the suspense almost got me there. Apple doesn't want me to tell you about this.
Yeah.
Twitter leaker Dylan DKT, who has been remarkably and consistently accurate, he tweeted out that the upcoming iMac Pro, which is not a finalized name, but apparently that is the leading candidate for naming, has at least what he has seen a reference to of another configuration above what you can offer with the 14 and 16-inch M1 Pro and M1 Max MacBook Pros. And so he's saying a 12-core CPU option, which would presumably be additional performance cores, because I don't really see why you would need more efficiency cores in a desktop.
Yeah.
But this is super interesting because obviously in a desktop, you don't need to be as concerned about power consumption. I mean, Noah, you've used desktops before. Have you ever really considered how much power they use?
No, I mean, yeah, when I built the computer, you buy whatever power supply it is, and that's the only time that I've ever thought about it, I guess. So no.
Yeah, that's the same. The only time I've thought about it really is when building PCs, because Macs, obviously you don't really need to worry about it. You just plug it in, but it also doesn't have a super duper. It doesn't have a super big impact on the usability. When I'm looking at a laptop and I see that it has a 180 watt GPU, that tells me that it's going to produce a lot of heat and it needs a big old bunch of fans and pipes, and it's probably going to be thick. Like, there's a pretty direct correlation there. But in a desktop, I'm okay if it uses a little bit more power. Obviously, I like power efficiency. I like, consuming less electricity, using less natural resources, all that stuff. But it doesn't need to be a laptop.
Yeah.
And that's what's really interesting, because once you go to an iMac form factor and you don't necessarily need to keep your system power to a minimum, you can add 2 more performance cores. You can add what I estimated in the video to be another 8 GPU cores. To me, that makes the most sense, because I don't know if you saw this, Noah, but if you download TG Pro, which is a temperature monitoring software, and you look at the readouts for the GPU temperature, it's arranged by clusters. So there's 4 clusters that will show up, 8 cores in each. So essentially, they took the M1 GPU and they put 4 of them next to each other. And there you have it.
That makes sense. Yeah.
It does make sense. And so essentially, what we would be talking about is adding another one of those. So you'd get 40 core GPU, substantial, and you'd get a 12 core CPU. What are your thoughts on, having now reviewed, well, you didn't make a review on it, but you've been using the most powerful M1 Max, as have I. Do you think that this is noticeable even?
Like, do you think you would notice this additional bump
Yeah,
in this?
because it's not like going from the M1 Pro to the M1 Max, right? That's double the GPU cores,
Right.
and you don't get double the performance. So, in terms of graphics, I don't know. I kind of wonder if all of those extra GPU cores might just get eaten up by the fact that you're driving a 5K display for whatever it is you're doing.
Yeah, that's a good point because like okay, so like obviously, you know, the Macs, like the laptops are rated for, you know, driving, you know, I don't know what it is, like a 5K or 6K, or they're like you can do two 4Ks or whatever. So they're rated for certain things. But I guess if you think about like, you know, when you get into the really pro stuff, you know, talking about like the Mac Pro or even I guess like the iMac, and if you have a second monitor with it, like that's some serious you know, graphics that you're going to be driving there. So that's a good point that that maybe the additional cores would be like necessary to get good performance on, you know, that kind of screen real estate. But to answer your first question, I don't know if I would. I mean, I personally wouldn't notice a difference, obviously, because it's you know, so overkill. But I'm sure there are people out there that would absolutely.
Yeah, I think that's a really interesting point because when I covered the M1 Max, I got a lot of people that were saying like it's not even worth talking about because it's so overkill for what most people need that why are you even talking about it? Which is a really interesting thing to hear this time around because the M1 Max is by no means the most powerful computer that you can buy.
Right.
So this seems to be a sentiment that doesn't really exist in the PC world. I feel like in the PC world, people just want horsepower, horsepower, my kingdom for some horsepower. I think that was like a vague reference to something, but I can't remember the full thing. So I don't know if I did it right. But
I think I know what you're talking about.
you know what I mean?
I don't know exactly what it is, but I do know what you mean.
All right, so we're on the same level of vague comprehension that I made a reference, and we'll let the audience figure out what it was.
Yes.
There we go. But yeah, so a lot of people are like, oh, well, you don't even, like, I don't even care because the M1 Max is so overkill. I don't even need that, let alone anything in addition. But, I mean, that doesn't change the fact that there are certainly people out there that could use more horsepower. I mean, I like to think that I could. If I'm honest, the M1 Max is probably more than enough for running my video production side of business and stuff like that. But I just like when things are fast. So I will, of course, be purchasing this new iMac, obviously. What do you take me for? Some sort of a fool?
There's no question about that. But I think there's no question about you purchasing.
Me being a fool.
Well, both of them, both you purchasing the new iMac and you being a fool.
That's fair.
But to go back to you had the interesting point about, you know, this kind of discussion doesn't really exist in the PC world about like things being too powerful or whatever. And I guess that's really because of gaming, I would think, because with gaming, there's always new games coming out that require bigger and better hardware, and there's always, you know, push out additional frame rate, get a high refresh rate monitor, 4K HDR, whatever, like all that stuff. I feel like gaming can usually, like if you're playing the like top AAA like new games, it can take advantage of anything that you can throw at it. You know, the ceiling is, you know, very, very high on that. Whereas on Macs, where there isn't gaming, obviously productivity, video editing, modeling, whatever other stuff there is. But I feel like on PC, it's very easy. A lot of the people that are making that argument are probably gamers, or I don't know if I should say that, but a lot of people make that argument. I'm sure they are gamers, and you know, they can throw resources at that. And maybe on a Mac, you're not doing as much gaming. You know, maybe some people don't.
That's true.
It.
A lot of the tasks, like whenever we benchmark Apple Silicon, a lot of those tasks aren't fully saturating the hardware. So, like when I'm rendering in Final Cut Pro, it's not maxing out the system the whole time. If it was, then I would definitely need more hardware.
Yeah.
But yeah. I also want to real quick shout out to the couple of super chats. Let me get Cole up here. Where is Cole? Oh no, it's far away. Okay, I found it. There we go. Thanks guys for the super chats. Really appreciate it. Yeah, I think that's a very good point because I have a system with a 3090 in it. I was lucky enough to get an RTX 3090 last year that had been returned to a Micro Center, so it was on clearance sale. I paid sub MSRP. I know. It was still $1,600, but it was an $1,800 MSRP.
That's nice.
That was a bit of a cop right there.
Yeah.
But even with a 3090, and I don't have a 4K. I have an ultra wide like you do, Noah. We both have 3440 by 1440 ultra wides. Yours is 100 hertz, I think, or 120.
One of the two. I don't remember.
Mine's a 120. I think yours is probably similar. It's probably the same panel, to be honest. A lot of them are overlapping panels, but it's even in certain games when I start throwing like ray tracing, cranking everything up, I can run into situations where I wish I could have a few more frames here with a 3090.
Yeah.
And I don't know that you necessarily have those kind of returns, in Final Cut Pro. Once you get those media accelerators, you're getting pretty much all you could need. And so, yeah, you end up getting pretty much. You don't need to spend a ton of money on upgrades, which is something that I tried to emphasize when I was reviewing the M1 Max. I was like, okay, real talk. 64 gigabytes of RAM for $400. You better really, really need that. You better have you better have a bullet pointed list for why you need that much RAM, because it is very hard to justify that price.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely not necessary for most people, as much as it is fun to click the button and have the best machine. I think the other thing, going back to where you mentioned the game performance versus like Final Cut, I think another important factor is when you're playing a game, that's like what you're actively doing, and the frame rate, and the performance really matters in that moment. If you're exporting a Final Cut video and it takes a minute longer than it would have, maybe you're going to notice it, but it's not nearly as noticeable as playing a game and the frame rate is choppy. So it's definitely a difference there as well.
That is very true. And I guess, it's easy to get caught up in the how much are these little differences, offering. But I would say in the case of Final Cut Pro, there is some of that thing that you would notice every day, which is the timeline performance.
True.
Because, whether you're using Final Cut or Premiere or Resolve, you want to have a smooth experience when you're putting together your clips. And that was actually something that I made a whole video last May. Remember, Noah, when we got the new iMacs in, the M1 iMacs, and I switched from the iMac Pro to the M1 iMac? The thing that was really weird about that is my iMac Pro was a faster when it comes to rendering and exporting. That is as it should be, because this iMac Pro was $10,000.
Yeah.
I didn't buy it new, but someone paid 10 grand for this thing. So you'd expect it to be very fast for more than 2 years. And it has done that.
Yeah.
But the timeline performance on the M1 was better. When I was working with the footage, it was better on the M1 iMac than it was on a $10,000 Intel workstation that was faster in rendering and exporting. So I think that's also worth noting. You don't even need to get the M1 Pro. You can just have the normal M1, and the chips are just so good at what they are targeted for, even without being the fastest on paper.
That's interesting, because I feel like the timeline performance, I'd say, is probably more important than the rendering time. Unless, if the rendering time is a big difference, that's one thing. But if it's, a couple minutes of difference, but the timeline performance is better, I feel like that's probably the one. And obviously, you know better than I do, but I feel like that's the one that you'd want to go for.
Yeah, definitely. And in fact, let me just pull up my benchmarks here, because the one thing I will say, it is easy to point at, a 1 or 2 minute difference here or there and say, okay, well, that's probably negligible. And in most cases it is, but not always. Like, for example, when I have a new product coming out, I want to get my video live as soon as humanly possible, because the YouTube game is really, really cutthroat. I mean, not like the creators are at each other's throats, because I think all the creators that I know are very lovely human beings. But the algorithm is at all of our throats.
Yeah.
And the eyeballs don't last. So you want to try to get your videos out as fast as humanly possible without sacrificing quality.
Mm-hmm.
And so if I look right now at my iMac Pro export times, so for example, and I have these all in seconds, so forgive me if I have to just quickly convert them back. To export a 10-minute 4K video, that takes 11 and a half minutes on my iMac Pro. However, on the M1, that takes 12 and a half minutes, so that's a minute slower. Mm-hmm. Which actually, my goodness, that's not a lot of difference, considering that's like the difference between a $700 Mac Mini and a $10,000 iMac is 1 minute.
Yeah.
Oh, I do not envy the person that purchased this for $10,000 with AppleCare, plus AppleCare. Sorry. Oh, it's more like 12, I think. Actually, it's a ridiculous amount of money. But the M1 Max, oh god, that's took a minute and a half.
A minute and a half?
Mm-hmm.
Where the other ones took like 11 and a half, 12 and a half.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Mm-hmm. That is a difference that I will notice.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is, I'm still editing on the iMac Pro because, my workflow is set here. And to be honest, I'm trying to get a Pro Display XDR. I'm still working on it. I know we've talked about this, and I know it's been a while. It's also an idiotic purchase. I should not be buying a Pro Display XDR in 2022, but I'm gonna do it. And then I'm gonna have the Pro Display XDR. I'm gonna plug my M1 Max into it, and then in March or April, I'm gonna plug the new iMac into it, and then in December, I'm gonna plug the Mac Pro into it. Mm-hmm. That's just how it's gonna be.
Yeah, I mean, you've already you've talked about it too much that you don't have a choice anymore. You have to do it.
It's no longer optional. Unfortunately. Now, the thing that's concerning me is we're already talking about cutting down my 12-minute export. It's realistically, my videos are longer than 10 minutes, so it's usually around 15 or so minutes. So we're talking about taking 15 minutes down to 2. That's significant. That's going to make a big difference, on launch day, being able to get a video out 10 minutes faster. Heck yeah. I pay an extra $20 a month now to my lifetime nemesis, worst enemy, Xfinity, because I had to step up to their gigabit plan in order to get 35 megabyte per second uploads, Noah, over Ethernet.
Yeah, that's that I don't feel bad for. I don't envy you with that.
You don't feel bad for me? Wow, ruthless.
I feel terrible for you. I don't envy you for that at all.
I pay $110 a month for 35 megabit per second uploads.
That's what you got to move to California, man. I'm telling you.
Now, what I need is fiber optic. I'm in a 15-year-old building. I think that's why, because Xfinity is a cable service. They don't have any fiber optic options, and I think they just like can't. I think 50 megabit or something around that ballpark is like the maximum that they can do over cable, which is dumb.
Yeah, we've talked about Xfinity on this podcast before.
One day I will topple them. They are my Ender Dragon, and I will one day slay them.
I'm sure
somehow. Of course, finding jobs for all of the people that are laid off that are not responsible for it. Anyone who's responsible for it, watch out. You're going to jail. But anyway, I paid more money so that I could upload videos faster. I'm more than happy to shave 12 minutes off my export times. The problem that I'm now realizing is, okay, so it takes 2 minutes with my $4,000 MacBook Pro. What is it going to take? 1 minute with my $40,000 Mac Pro? Like, how much more do I have to spend for realistically a maximum of 2 minutes in savings, right? The best that it can do is I click export and it instantly appears on the desktop.
No, it'll export before you click the button.
Oh, so like the file is on the desktop and it changes as I'm editing without a need to export at all.
Yeah, as you change the timeline, it changes the file, and then the preview is just the file. There you go.
Wow. You know, I almost wonder when you're talking about, dude, this Mac Pro, this freaking thing, this beauty, which is apparently going to have 40 cores and 128 graphics cores and 8 media encoders. What?
Yeah.
That's insane. It takes 2 minutes on the Mac. If you quadruple everything about that, dude, is it going to take me like 25 seconds to export like a 20-minute video?
Honestly, I mean, when you have that much power, and like, I don't know how easy it is to like parallelize video export, but I'd imagine you could do it. And if you have that many like media encoders and cores and whatever, like, it's going to tear through it.
I can't wait for that. I'm going to spend way too much money on that Mac Pro. But you know what? I think of it as a public service because I'm fortunate enough that I can make these videos for you guys, and I can fill those videos with me saying, hey, you don't need this. Don't buy this. I think 50% of my content is, wow, this is awesome, and you should buy it. And then the other half is, you don't need that. You don't. You just don't need that. Like, I mean, I think this new iMac is going to be fantastic. I really do. 27 inches, mini LED display. It's going to have like 10,000 local dimming zones or some shit. It's going to be 120 hertz ProMotion variable refresh rate. Oh. Thin bezels, the new design, flat back. It's going to be like dead silent because it's going to have like a 90-watt total system power. It's going to be magnificent. But you're probably only going to need the base model at the end of the day. And you can get all of those things, all of the stuff that Apple talks about in their hardware. You know, when you look at the MacBooks, the ports, the keyboard, the battery, the display, all of that stuff, you don't have to spend a penny more than the starting price to get.
Yeah. Yeah,
and that makes the base models the bar to cross the base model has to be very high, because you just get all of that stuff without having to spend any extra on their silly upgrades.
Yeah, that's like the key. And like with the new MacBook Pros, I know that was like one of the things that we both said, and I think I mentioned it in my little developer review thing, but like there's a lot of great stuff about the new Macs, and you get them all in the base model. And obviously, you can get more performance if you need it, or I guess if you want it, but like all that good stuff is in the base model, and there's not much. I mean, like, what else? Like on the Macs, I guess, if you want that Ethernet port in the power brick, or if you want,
True.
2 more USB-C ports or Thunderbolt ports or whatever they are, you could step up a little bit, but like beyond, maybe one more level up, there's really, not much that you're not getting much beyond just like additional performance.
Why don't we go ahead and set up a poll here?
Okay.
For you viewers right now, with what you do, is an M1 Max overkill? Is it a good value? Or is it an absolute necessity and you wish that you had more? I think that's an interesting question. Because I know that there are people that watch these videos that legitimately, make big purchasing decisions. I've talked to a couple of people that, wanted advice on Mac Pro ordering. I know people that purchase computers for businesses watch tech YouTube. I've talked to someone, I think we talked about on the podcast. I talked to someone last year in like May or June that watched my channel and was very heartbroken to have to order like fully loaded out $6,000 Intel 16-inch MacBook Pros because they had to buy them then and couldn't wait for the new ones to come out. And
I remember
they
that,
basically
yeah.
messaged me and were like, I can't believe that I have to place the order on this because this is killing me as a tech fan.
Yeah.
But there are people that watch these videos, and I'm curious to see if anyone happens to be here with us. So let's go ahead and get this poll shared. So for the M1 Max, I'm going to say not enough just for myself. So far, we have a 3-way tie with 3 votes.
Do you want to put the link up as well?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I forgot about that. So if you're watching along, you can go to app.darkmodepodcast.com and you can go ahead and vote in our poll here. Seems like some people figured it out, or are 2 of these votes us, Noah?
I haven't voted yet. I think maybe some people have it bookmarked.
Ooh. Yeah, there we go. We got the link up here. All right, overkill is starting to take a lead here. As we're having this discussion, I do have some concerns about Apple's ability to compete. And I don't know, it's not necessarily something that matters a whole lot to the actual people, because realistically, Apple could probably have just completely deleted their high-end Pro lineup and said, we only make consumer laptops now. They could have stopped at M1, and realistically, the higher-end Macs are not a very large percentage of their profits, and they would not be, ruined as a company if they just stopped there. However,
True.
we all know that AMD and Intel compete on the high end to sell on the low end. This is what everyone does. It's called a halo product. And the importance of it is not to sell that product, but to demonstrate your ability as a company all the way up and down your product stack. So if I'm a car maker, I'm going to come out with some crazy, cool looking, outstanding design, cool ergonomics, very cool designed car. But realistically, people are going to go in and buy a Hyundai Tucson. They're not going to buy whatever crazy thing that I've put out there. If I'm Audi, I'm going to make an R8, but they're going to buy an A3. That's just how it works. So Apple needs to prove on their high end that they can make some really crazy stuff and, just be performance monsters and value and efficiency monsters, because those things will sell lower end hardware. So even if it doesn't necessarily matter to you directly, it is stuff that still has an effect. I just wanted to put that out there, as we are seeing a 74% margin saying the M1 Max is overkill.
Yeah, that's an important point, because I know that we've said this before on the podcast, but it's very easy to be in a bubble of tech people who really care about the highest specs and the best performance, and they'll say, "Oh, Apple, their machines are like, they're not powerful enough," or like, "Oh, they're useless," or "Oh, they're completely overkill," like whatever. But like the majority of people are gonna go, like you said, for the lower end models, and that's all they're gonna need. And it's probably even overkill for them. Like the M1 on its own is more powerful than a lot of people need, but it's obviously a great value, and that's what they're going to go for. But very easy to be in a tech bubble, looking at the very best stuff, and you don't want to forget about the entry level stuff as well.
But you also don't want to ignore the high end stuff, because it kind of, like, it's weird because it simultaneously doesn't really matter at all, but also very much does. Because like the way that all these tech companies work with their hardware is you release a new generation and you scale it, right? 12th gen Intel chips come in a variety of configurations, but you want to prove that 12th gen is the best by comparing all up and down that product stack and being able to make headlines with the best at the top of the range, even if nobody's going to end up buying it. I mean, I just looked up now. Steam's hardware survey shows that if you add up essentially the entire RTX 30 series lineup, the 3060, 3060 Ti, 3070, 3080, and 3090, that's 4% of the install base. 4% for the basically the entire 30 series, which is nuts. That's very low.
Yeah.
But that's what everyone's talking about, because those are, even if you're not buying it right now, everyone wants the 30 series. Granted, I'm sure if supply wasn't an issue, this number would be a lot higher.
Mm-hmm.
But for right now, I think the most popular card is still a 1060. I think after like 5 years.
Yeah, that's a throwback. I'm sure part of it is supply issues and people not upgrading because they can't, but I'm sure part of it is people maybe not needing to upgrade because their setup can play the games that they want to play at the level that they want to play them at.
True. And that applies here. Obviously, it's a different situation because we're talking about gaming versus Mac hardware. But
right.
If people see the high-end stuff getting the coverage, even if they're not going to buy the Mac Pro, they're going to, you're going to see people talking about this workstation with incredible quietness and incredible performance, and they're going to assume, rightfully, that continues even all the way down to an M1 Mac Mini. And so Apple does need to compete, because if we're talking about an iMac, a 27-inch iMac now, that is no longer operating under the excuse of, oh, well, it's a laptop. It's really good for a laptop. Mm-hmm. You look at the M1 Max, and the CPU is up there with the top performing, at least pre 12th gen CPUs. 12th gen CPUs, I think even Core i7s are gonna be above and beyond what the M1 Max has to offer, albeit with a lot more power consumption.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing with AMD. So you've got a very powerful CPU, and then realistically, Apple's GPU isn't all they promised in a number of ways. It's not really a 3080, if we're being honest.
Yeah.
They do suffer from compatibility stuff. Like a lot of the things don't run that well because it's Rosetta or because it's using a deprecated, OpenCL or something like that. But in the real world, a 3080, that was a bold comparison for them to be making. So what do you do when you're now converting that to a desktop where you no longer have the excuse of power consumption as a benefit for your performance? Because like with the MacBook Pro, with the M1 Max, you can say, okay, yes, it's not as fast as a 12th gen Core i9 plus an RTX 3080 mobile, but I have better battery life and I don't hear the fans and it runs really cool. That's a valid trade-off, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think it is perfectly understandable why you would want to go for something that, as Noah was talking about, renders it a minute slower if you can use it away from the wall for 3 extra hours. That's a good trade-off.
Yeah.
But on a desktop, where's the benefit of the efficiency?
Yeah, it's definitely, you could argue that it's still there, but no one's going to notice it. So,
exactly.
So definitely, yeah, they can't really, tout that as much of a benefit.
And on a laptop, being a more power efficient design gets you a thinner device, which gets you less weight, which makes it easier to carry. Those are benefits. On a desktop, okay, you can make it thinner. Who cares?
Yeah, I
Really,
mean, you're gonna set it up.
Aesthetic.
You're gonna set it up, and especially with the Mac Pro, because the Mac Mini, you could argue that they could make the Mac Mini a lot smaller than it is now, because there's there's the overkill power supply and some empty room in the case, so they could make it smaller. How much of a difference would that make? Probably not too much. But especially the Mac Pro, like you're gonna set that up on a desk or on the floor, and you're probably not gonna move that thing. Or if you do, you're gonna buy the fancy Apple wheels, and then it doesn't matter.
The $400 wheels.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have to say I'm very intrigued that our poll has now finished with 45 votes, 50% saying the M1 Max is not enough in terms of performance. 7% said good value. 43% said overkill. I'm going to assume that some of the people saying not enough are being a little goofy.
Yeah, I don't, because it was overkill was the winner for a while, and then at the end, not enough started
took
really
the lead there.
Yeah, it really took the lead. So I don't know.
I mean, I think though that does tell us that there are some people who would want to see more power, even if it's just to watch videos on powerful electronics, right? Like that's a very valid reason. There's a reason that PC build channels get views about like crazy expensive builds. It's kind of just entertaining to watch.
Yeah,
and that's part of how a brand makes its sales. Halo car example.
Mm-hmm.
So I really hope that Apple can pull out all the stops. I will say though, no, the one benefit that efficiency would give you on the desktop is noise.
Yeah.
Because when you look at PC builds, one of the big things that you find is like people that are like silent PC, super quiet PC, like desktops that are loud are really annoying. And with a desktop, I think Apple has the opportunity to create pretty much dead silent operation if they play their cards right. Like you've got a 27-inch panel and a little chip to put on the back of it. I really, really have high expectations for them to be able to deliver as much performance as is physically possible from those chips with essentially no noise under any reasonable circumstance. That's my expectation.
I think that's reasonable because that's what I've experienced, at least with the MacBook Pro. And I think that's important for, especially for the iMacs, because the entire machine is sitting right in front of you. You know, with the desktop, you can make the argument that you can stick it on the floor. And obviously, you know, if it makes noise, it can still be annoying, but it's not going to be right in front of you. The iMac, you know, the entire computer being right in front of you, but still being silent, you know, that definitely makes a big difference.
Yeah, that's definitely the case. Now, as far as other stuff we wanted to talk about, I can't remember. What was it? We had another.
It was the education.
What was the other big development? Yeah,
education. Yeah.
Do you want to explain what exactly happened with that?
Yeah, sure. So there was some interesting developments in the Apple Education Store, and so basically, you know, for the longest time, I think probably for as long as the education discount has existed, you could use the education discount without any sort of verification whatsoever. You could just go to the education store link. I think you just add like US-HED to the URL, and you were in the education store, and you could shop and buy, or in store, I think if you just ask for it. I don't know if they checked anything or not, but at least online, they didn't check anything. And you could just use the education discount. And then recently, they added verification with Unidays, if I'm pronouncing that right, which is what they use for Apple Music for their student plan. They added it to the Apple Store, so you would have to verify that you were a student through that in order to get the discount. And I think I heard they also limited it to like one Mac per person, which maybe that wasn't the case before, or I guess it wasn't really enforced very much before, so I don't know, but they were limiting it. And then shortly after that happened, they rolled it back to the way it was before with no verification. I think that was because people were having issues verifying, and I wouldn't be surprised if they turn the verification back on. But I was kind of surprised. I guess it's not that surprising, but I was kind of surprised after so long that they were finally cracking down on it. And now I guess we're not sure if they're going to crack down on it again. What do you think about that?
I mean, to be honest, I didn't know that they backtracked it. That's news to me. I remember seeing the news of the Switch, and I was like, wow, I was surprised because, I mean, how long, Noah, have we been using the education store? 10 years at least?
Yeah, since we were actually students.
Yeah, since we were in middle school, and were therefore eligible for it. Although no, because they always had said, you know, if you're in college, it was always sort of like intended for college students.
Yeah,
but I used it all the time. I bought my MacBook Pro on it. Although I'm gonna count that as a borderline case because I was very recently a student, and that was my first time technically abusing the system. Technically,
I guess I abused the system for my MacBook Pro. And the other thing that was funny,
Apple,
was I know, poor Apple. They're gonna really miss that money. I did use it for the MacBook Pro and also for the iPad Mini, which I only had for a couple of days, which I returned it. But I'm pretty sure I told you this, but when I ordered it, I forgot to use the education discount. So I messaged Apple support and told them I forgot to use the discount, and they just applied it to my order. Like,
oh my God.
No verification, no nothing. They just applied it to my order. So, you know, it's before my card got charged, and then it got charged the lesser amount because they applied the discount after the fact, which I thought was
oh my
funny.
God. That's so funny. Yeah, I mean, I don't really know why they're pretending to care that much right now. I guess someone came up to them and said, "Hey, look, work with us here at Unidays. Just put it in, and we'll save you a couple. Bit of money." And they're like, "All right." That's what I suspect. I don't think it's really been that big of like. I highly doubt that they've had like frantic meetings in Tim Cook's office. They're like, "Sir, we're hemorrhaging money.
Yeah.
Everyone is using the education discount and we're going under in 30 days if we don't do something." And then for 8 years, Tim Cook has been searching the internet like, oh, if only there was a way to figure out if someone's actually a student. It's crazy. There's no way to do this.
Yeah, and then Unidays came in and were like, we're here for the rescue.
And Tim was like, thank you. We're going to be a $4 trillion company in 1 month now.
We think we're going to love this.
That's so accurate though, because then they rolled it back, but then they might put it out again. So they literally said, we think you're going to love this.
Yeah. And maybe they were wrong. But the interesting theory that I read about this was that, so first of all, we should say the education discount has been around for a very long time, like we said. And so the fact that they're cracking down on it now, or maybe cracking down on it now, is it's surprising because it's been around for so long and it hasn't been a problem. If it were a new thing and then, they were cracking down on it, that's one thing, but it's been around for so long. And I can't think of a particular reason why now versus earlier they would have. But the interesting theory that I read about this was that Apple was sort of using the education store education discount as a way to like secretly discount their products for people that know about them. That's kind of a weird way to phrase it, but basically what I mean, or what they were saying was, Apple doesn't do sales. They don't do discounts on their products. Sometimes they'll bundle like an Apple gift card or like AirPods or something with a product for like back to school or whatever, but they don't do actual discounts on their products. And so the theory was that maybe in order to compete with some of the other retail stores that actually do have discounts, if they leave the education store open and, they're not encouraging it, but they're also not checking it. If they sort of just leave it open, then people that know can get the discount, but they're still buying directly from Apple. And then maybe that'll make some people happy. So I thought that was a really interesting theory.
That is an interesting theory. Cause I guess if I'm really dead set on buying a custom configuration Mac, one that recently came out that's not on discount and is a configuration that nobody's carrying, because Micro Center, Best Buy, they tend to carry the usual configurations, maybe a couple of options, the kind of thing that Apple actually stocks in store, not stuff that you're going to build and customize.
Yeah.
And so maybe in that particular case, if I'm gonna build my own, like if I want to get like a weird configuration that I can't find anywhere and I'm really desperate to buy it, I would go through the education store if I could. But I guess now the argument would be, sucks to suck. You don't get a discount. You just have to buy it at full sticker.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, I guess Apple themselves probably aren't too concerned about, like, if they really were concerned about discounts or whatever, then they could make a more of an effort. I feel like part of their brand is like, these are the products we're offering and these are the prices, take it or leave it. And they let the other, the big box retailers, whatever, they let them handle the sales and stuff. But I guess, if they were using the education store as a way to sort of make some sales available to people, in a secret kind of way, then maybe that's no longer interesting to them, or maybe that's not what it is at all, and they just decided to crack down on it more now, and we can never know why.
It's a mystery until the end of time.
Yeah.
The one thing that there is something that stands out to me, though. This might sound a little conspiratorial, but have you ever noticed that Apple never does, even through third parties like Best Buy, like big clearance sales? They never ever do.
True.
I really do wonder if Apple makes its authorized resellers agree to a minimum, You know what I mean?
Like a minimum price for the laptop.
Yeah. Like you
Yeah.
cannot under any circumstances sell for less than this amount, even, later. Because if you go on Best Buy, like here, let me go on Best Buy right this exact second.
Oh boy.
And I'm going to share this with you guys because, or actually, I think I'll go on Micro Center because I think I know what I'm looking for here. Micro Center, okay, always has. Okay, this is under clearance, but this is the sales that they always have. They always have Apple products that are like weirdly old, and you're like, why are you still selling this?
There's the
Let's see,
iPod
I
Touch.
can't find one on here. Oh yeah, iPod Touch 32 gigabytes. Wait, it's not even on sale. They only have 2. Oh my god. Oh well. I mean, some of these are in store only, right? So that's fair. I'm not seeing a ton of them here, but whenever I go into a Micro Center, they have like previous gen products that came out like years ago on somewhat deep sale. Like they had the old iPad mini was like $150 discounted or something at a Micro Center one time. But it's weird. I'm like, why do you guys have all of this old inventory from like years ago? And I wonder if it's because Apple won't let them discount it enough to clear out their inventory. And so they end up in these perpetual slight sales with increasingly aging inventory.
I could see that, especially with the newer stuff. The older stuff, maybe, but like definitely with the newer stuff, like I could see like if some big box retailer, they could be a little sneaky and like if they discounted the Mac like pretty heavily, maybe bundled it with something else that people might want, and like sort of took a lot of the sales maybe from other companies and from Apple themselves. I could definitely see them having like a minimum price in line, because like obviously there's MSRP, but I could see like a minimum as well that Apple would enforce. It makes sense.
An MMRP, manufacturer's minimum retail price.
Yeah, I could see it.
I don't know. That's a conspiracy. So for those of you lawyers out there, it's just a hunch. Nothing legally binding.
Yeah.
Don't worry about it.
We don't have any insider information.
No, absolutely not. I wouldn't be surprised though. I mean, I know that a lot of in other segments, a lot of stores have to like you like call in and agree on like, hey, this is the lowest price. Actually, wait a minute. I think this isn't a conspiracy at all. I'm just now remembering. I watched a Linus Tech Tips video from a while back where he was talking about TVs, I think, and he basically said that they do have minimum prices to prevent retailers from just like putting everything on a ton of sale and completely like diluting the brand. So and I changed my mind. They do have that. It's not a conspiracy. It's just a fact. I just think that they're probably fairly aggressive with it.
Yeah, now the lawyers can know this is a fact. It's not a conspiracy anymore.
Okay, so we're still. That was a joke. I still don't know what Apple's whole thing is, but yeah. So yeah, I just think that there's a little bit of coordination of pricing that goes on out there.
I think so. I think they should do
neither positive nor negative.
They should do the Nathan for You. Remember the TV, the $1 TV? Do you remember this?
Oh, I don't remember that.
It was, first of all, Nathan for You, hilarious TV show that Luke has seen it as well, but I highly recommend that you watch it. But there was an episode where some like smaller electronics store, they were trying to compete with Best Buy, and they had they did like a $1 TV, but in order to get it, you had to like show up in a 3-piece suit, and then you had to like crawl through a little door past an alligator or something to get to the $1 TV. It's pretty funny.
I don't think I
Apple
saw
should do
that
that.
one.
Really? Oh, it's a good one.
Dude, also, I would do that. I would show up in a 3-piece suit and crawl past an alligator to get a $1 iMac. Are you kidding me? I would do that.
That would be good content too. I'd like to see that.
That's true. I could vlog it.
Yeah.
Be a vlog YouTuber. Bro, I swear, every time I tell someone who doesn't really know much about YouTube, or honestly, even people who do, like people our age, young, savvy, every time they're like, oh, what do you do? And I say, oh, I make YouTube videos. They're like, oh, are you a vlogger? Are you like Jake Paul? I'm like, oh my God. What is up with vlogging? Why is it that everyone thinks that if you do YouTube, you must be going, what is up, guys? Today we're going to go fart in the swimming pool and see if anyone notices. Like, there's other things that people can do.
There are, but I feel like those are the people that always make the news headlines for doing bad things.
I know, I hate it.
That's what people think about.
You know what I think about, Noah?
What do you think about, Luke?
I think about ending this podcast episode with our voices in it.
That's an interesting thought. Interesting way to phrase it too.
Yeah, that was on purpose.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I gotta go vlog right now, actually. I'm late for my vlog appointment.
Oh, man.
We're not farting in swimming pools. We're farting near them. It's very different. I don't want to be derivative, you know?
Of course.
But I have been your host, Luke Miani.
And I've been your host, Noah Rubin. Thanks for tuning in and have a great night.
Noah's audio has cut out. That's interesting.
It did?
Well, it doesn't matter because the podcast is over. So thank you guys for listening. Good night.